We come together to celebrate. If you've not done so, I invite you to take the pew pads located along the center of these white books. Pass those around. We do have a combined service today, so there are people here who you may not normally see or haven't seen for a while. So just make sure during our passing of the peace you find them and just welcome them. And for all of our guests and visitors who are with us as well, a very special blessing to you on this day. We are doing a unique schedule today because we're doing this service and then we're going to have our meeting right afterwards. As soon as the service is done, we invite you to go grab a cup of coffee and come back in here as quickly as you can. We're going to start as promptly around 10:10 or so, somewhere around those, like 10:10, 10:15. So come grab a cup of coffee, come back in and join us in here. We do want to celebrate. This is, I heard there's something about a ball game or something going on this afternoon. Is that right? Yes. There you go. So in honor of our Packer fans, and we have to always be sympathetic about Packer, so we put up the green and gold pyramids up on the altar just for you guys. But there's something else. But there's something else for you, for the you Packer fans that need to cry for today. Here is a Vikings Kleenex box. So we do want to give thanks for that. The other thing is, every once in a while, when we're supposed to say amen, instead of saying amen, how about if we go, Skol? What do you think? So we should do something like that. So. We come together to celebrate. I'm not sure exactly what the announcements are, so we'll find out and we'll tell you what's going on. So January, we are at Samaritan Bethany. We help transport the residents down to the worship services. So we have a couple more Sundays for that. So if you'd like to do that, please show up over Samaritan. They like you there about 8:30 for that early service. So if you could do that and help people get down, we just give thanks for that. We also want you to know about our Super Bowl sub sale. Say that 3 times really quick.
Super Bowl sub, there's 4. Super Bowl sub sale, Super Bowl sub sale, Super Bowl sub sale.
Whatever.
Working with children pays off. So today is your second to last opportunity to pre-buy your subs. So if you can pay today, great, give us the money. If you want to bring money on Super Bowl Sunday in 2 weeks, then that's okay as well. Youth will be out at the table after service when you're going to get your coffee. Stop by their table, sign up on the sheet, go in, grab your coffee, and come back. They'll also be there next week to take pre-sales as well. We're going to try and have some extras on Super Bowl Sunday, so even if you didn't buy one beforehand, you can still get one that day. Just as many of us as possible to buy your subs beforehand, that'd be great. That way we know exactly how many we want to be making. It's a really great way to support their efforts and to get them on their mission trip. They're actually going to be going to the West Central Regional Youth Event in Grinnell, Iowa this summer.
What state was that?
Iowa.
There you go, just checking.
Help support their mission and check with me if you have questions. Please buy some subs, or if you don't want a sub and you want a wrap of meat and cheese and veggies, if you're a gluten-free person, we can actually probably make that work. So we're going to try some new things this year, and talk to me if you have questions on that.
Good, thank you for that. Thanks for all of our youth. As I mentioned before, the annual meeting is today. We're going to jump right into that as soon as we can after the worship service. So please be mindful of that. We're going to be talking about some important, not only the normal budget issues, but some exciting ministry that's taking place in the life of the church, both now and in the future. So we're very excited for you to be here to join with us on that celebration. We also want you to know about the Soup and Bread Cook-Off. Now, I know we're doing Lori, you want to talk to that at all? Is it filling up? Good. So this year we decided to add the soups to the array. I don't know how many other chilies there are, but I made chili. So if I'm the only chili, I might actually win the chili cook-off this year. I'm just saying. We're finally going to get there. Whatever. Skol! Yeah, whatever. So we want you to come and just celebrate the whole morning. There's such a great spirit in this place. Come and join us for worship, and then this great meeting. I think you're just going to be really moved by the meeting, and then join us for fellowship. And it's a fundraiser. All the proceeds go for the building project, our building fund. We're asking for a $5 donation, but if you want to give more, it goes directly to our building fund. So just give and have fun and celebrate and pick my chili. So, Earth Stewards, you want to talk about this?
Sure. Out on our coat hallway side, you'll see a box that looks kind of like a treasure chest. So if you have taken down your Christmas lights and know that you had some that don't work, please make sure and put them in that box so they can get recycled properly. It's just another way that we try to take care of our earth and support all of you in your efforts to do that as well. This is coming from that social action team who is working a little bit on being earth stewards as well. So it's another way, it's an easy way to make sure that you've got something out of your house that you don't want anymore.
There you go. Good. Thank you. Also, Race Forward will be meeting Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and Miriam Ministry will be Wednesday at 9:30. Race Forward is open to the entire church. We want you to come and engage in this very crucial and important topic around racism and really understanding that. The Miriam Ministry will have Sue Knutson here this week from Samaritan Bethany. She's the executive director. Sue's been there a long time, just a very good friend of the church. Has done an incredible job directing Samaritan, but she'll be here to talk about their present situation and their future. So we're excited to have Sue with us. As for any woman of the church, you are welcome to come. And I'm sure if some guys showed up, they might let you in. I'm not sure. Well, you may have to do a test to get in, so we'll see. We also let you know about Connect. We've had an exciting kickoff to this.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we started talking about this really heavily, and so we are not done with signups. If you weren't here 2 weeks ago and you wanted to get signed up for a Connect group, you can still do that today. We will be having that first gathering dinner on February 8th, and so we'll have at that point really have our schedule out of what we're going to be doing this first round, and then we'll have another round that comes around May. So it's not your last chance. Even if you know you can't do it this season, that's okay. We will grab you next season. But this, we really do want to engage as many people as we can in this, because this is not just another thing we're doing. This is really about who we are as a church. So you can talk to me if you have questions. There will be more information as well today during the annual meeting. So you're going to hear me talk about connects until you are so sick of the word connect that you'll be connected, right?
Indeed. So we do want to just lift up a few items. First of all, during the service today, we're blessed to have Sarah Nair preaching. Sarah, where are you, Sarah? You're back there hiding out? There you are. She's behind the posts up there. Sarah will be preaching today. Sarah, as you know, is obviously grew up in the church. She came here when in high school and was part of our youth program and helped lead that. She has gone to seminary and finishing up coming this May. We're excited about her journey. She unfortunately just took a job down in Kansas City, so we hate to see her go, but we are very thrilled to have her today. She's going to be preaching or presenting to us about some work that she's been doing throughout her seminary, but also with Beth over the last 4 or 5 months about helping us direct and refocus our children and youth ministry program. Very skilled, and we're so thrilled to have her as part of our faith community. We've lifted another one up, folks, and that's exciting. Amen. Yeah. Skull! That's right. Even Fred Traxel did a skull, so we're very good there. So. We're glad to have Fred back.
Don't sing on Eagle's Wings today.
The other Packer fans leaving there, so that's a good idea, though. I think we can do that. But Fred is back with us. We had Fred on our prayer list. We're glad Fred is back with us, and we give thanks for that. Also, you're very welcome. We're glad you're here. We have Dolores back with us as well, who was on our prayer list. And Dolores, glad to have you back with us as well, and you're wearing the right colors, so we're thankful for that. Other items, Debbie, Lori, are we good? All right, let's come together and just ask for God to be with us. So I'd like to invite our children to come forward. The rest are welcome to be seated.
Come on up, guys and girls and friends. Good to see you this morning. How's everybody feeling? Yeah? Glad to hear it. Awesome. Yes, that's me. Mom's over there. So, I have a story to tell that's similar to our story that we're going to hear about Jesus that Sarah's going to read in just a couple minutes. But first, I have a question. Have any of you guys been separated from your parents and it felt like they were really, really far away? Have you ever felt lost, like your parents didn't know where you were? Or you didn't know where your parents were? No? You have felt that? So when I was not even born, my older sister took my middle sister, and she was pushing her in the stroller, and they were at like JCPenney or the mall or something like that, and she was with my parents, but then they got on the elevator. And so my 4-year-old sister pushed my 2-year-old sister into the elevator, and the door closed. That's about what my parents probably sounded like, but about 10 times worse. Do you think your parents would be very excited about that? No, not really. They'd be really worried because you just got into a place and they can't see you. But now realize, she didn't push any buttons, so the elevator is just sitting there, right? So it's just sitting there, but it's on the other side of a wall. And even though it's just on the other side of the wall, you're freaking out, or maybe your parents are freaking out. I know I would be if she was on the elevator alone. I definitely would be. So in our story today, Jesus is a little bit older than that. He's more like 8. But he is somehow left in the temple, in the church. And his parents go back home, and they're like days away when they realize that he's not traveling with them. How? What? That's exactly right. Days. His parents had to travel days back to come and get him. What do you think your parents would be doing if they had to travel days back to come and get you? They would use a plane. Okay, well, Jesus' parents couldn't use a plane. So that's a very good point. It wouldn't have to be days. It could be more like... Yeah? So all of that fear that our parents have, somehow Jesus' parents were able to contain that in their bodies until they saw him. And what do you think his mom's response was when they did find him? What would your parents do if you were gone for days? They what? They'd be really thankful. Yeah, thank goodness you're all right. Or, oh my gosh, where have you been? I miss you. Your heart's pounding. Well, today, when Sarah reads the story, you're going to have to listen and see what Mary thought about that and what she said to Jesus.
I want to play with Mom.
You can definitely play with Mom. Because your mommy isn't very far away, is she? She's not days away. So today, when you hear the story, I want you to hear what Mary's response was, and then I want you to listen for what Jesus says back. So I want you to listen to that really closely when you hear today's story that Sarah's going to say in a little bit. So will you guys pray with me a little bit? You can grab hands. Dear God, we know that we are never lost because you are always with us. Amen. Go ahead on back to your families.
We give thanks this day as we gather together. My parents, on the other hand, I was the youngest of 4, so you have to be mindful. My parents were thankful when I was missing. Just, I need.
May the rain always fall soft upon your field, and the sun pour down like honey where you stand. May the wind be at your back and the road rise to meet you, and your soul rest at last in the hollow of God's hand. Life isn't easy. No one ever said it was. But if you are lucky, you will love and be loved. And may the rain always fall soft upon your field, and the sun pour down like honey where you stand. May the wind be at your back and the road rise to meet you, and your soul rests at last in the hollow of God's hand. life isn't easy. Now no one ever said it was, but if you are lucky, you will love and be loved. And may the rain always fall soft upon your field, and the sun pour down like honey where you stand. May the wind be at your back, and the road rise to meet you, and your soul rests at last in the hollow of God's hand. May your friends be as many as the promises that you keep. May your laughter in heaven cause the devil to weep, and may the rain always fall soft upon your field, and the sun pour down like honey where you stand. May the wind be at your back, and the road rise to meet you, and your soul rests at last in the hollow of God's hand. In the hollow of God's hand. In the hollow of God's hand.
Wow. Thank you. It is a blessing indeed to have music like that, just to celebrate with everybody. It is my honor to do this again. So Sarah is here to preach for us. She's never preached here before, although you've talked a lot here. So, not as much as me. Yeah. Skull. It is such a joy, and I tell you, as pastors to watch these, you're still young, but not young when you first got here, to watch them flourish and blossom. Sarah was one of those natural leaders in our youth program when she was here. They called her the mother hen, because wherever she went, they all kind of followed along like little ducklings behind her. She has that passion and power and spirit, and we are blessed to have her as part of our church family and share a little bit about her journey and what she's calling us all to do and to be. So Sarah, thank you. Thank you.
So like Paul said, I am in seminary, a place I probably wouldn't be without his encouragement. And my degree is focusing on youth and young adult ministry. But this fall, when I moved back to Minnesota to return to school full-time, Paul and Beth invited me to lead the congregation in exploring what it would look like for youth engagement to be reimagined here at Peace. I primarily worked with Pastor Beth. We set up meetings with parents, youth, we planned activities, reestablished the youth leadership board. I offered a workshop on youth theory in December and wrote a report for the church board with my findings and recommendations for the church. From each of these meetings, I have gained hope for the future of the youth program here at Peace. However, I do see some areas where the congregation could grow, and I'm here to challenge you on a few of those today. But first, let us center our time together with a scripture reading. I invite you to find position for hearing the word as you settle your minds and open your hearts. Hear now the word of the Lord in the Gospel of Luke, in the 2nd chapter, 41 through 52. Now every year, his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went as usual up for the festival. When the festival had ended, they started to return, and the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. But his parents didn't know it. Assuming that he was in the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then when they started to look for him among the relatives and friends, and they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. And 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understandings to the answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother, are you listening, said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you with great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know I must be in my father's house?" But they did not answer what he had said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all of these things in her heart, and Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and divine and human favor. This scripture has always fascinated me. As a child, I was astonished that Jesus' parents left him in an unfamiliar place for over a day, and actually 3 by the time they found him. Today, this would be unthinkable. Technology allows for parents to know exactly where their children are at all times, not to mention the fear of being accused of child neglect or abuse. However, if you move past this initial shock of Jesus being left behind, the beauty of the story starts to unfold. Mary and Joseph trusted their community. They didn't feel the need to constantly check in with Jesus because they knew that he was in good hands. The depth of the story does not stop there. Mary and Joseph didn't find Jesus with his friends or out partying. Instead, they found him engaging with the synagogue leaders in a place of worship. This is where Jesus wanted to be. Now, I'm not here to suggest that the church will become a place that every 12-year-old wants to run off to. But I do argue that the church needs to make changes so that it's a place where young people feel welcomed and wanted. Before examining those changes, it's helpful to look at how American society has changed over the years and why young people do not want to participate in the church. Over the last 100 years, there have been major changes to society. With the explosion of technology in the 20th century, society has become increasingly transient, independent, and isolated. It's no longer assumed that you will be born, marry, and die in the same community. Families no longer live within close proximity to extended family, reducing the amount of intimate adult interaction that youth receive as they grow up. The development of a transient society was paralleled with the growth of the adolescent construct. After World War II, to create a stable environment for youth to recover from the horrific experiences they had endured during the war, there was an increased effort to create space for young people to have a break from the adult world. This space from adulthood increased the expansion of public education, the rise of high school graduate rates, and then increasing college attendance. Along with the increase of education came the explosion of youth culture, marked by its own music, clothing, and set of norms. With the rise of youth culture came a separation of youth from their parents. In the 1960s, there was a rebellion and mistrust of institutions by young people. With this mistrust of institutions, there was nothing for youth to put their identity in, except the ideology of their youth culture, further isolating them from the adult world. Pair this rebellion with the increase of their parents working outside of the home, youth continued to have less adult interaction. The baby boomers of the 1960s became parents, giving birth to Generation X, who often felt abandoned by their parents. The baby boomers had turned inward, wanting to develop a meaningful philosophy of life, rejecting their relationship with their parents and need for institutions, thus leaving Generation X with no adults in their life or institutions such as the church to lean on. Changes to society wasn't the only place that youth started to feel and experience isolation in the 20th century. In the 1950s, churches started to develop programming that created space for youth to experience their own culture within the church. Although this was an effort to keep youth in church, It further increased the segregation of youth. This seclusion from the larger congregation resulted in a juvenilization of American Christianity. Juvenilization, according to Thomas Bergler, is the process by which religious beliefs, practices, and developmental characteristics of adolescence become accepted as the appropriate for all Christians of all ages. As a result, Christians have become preoccupied with themselves, finding out who they are in personal transformation. That's not to say that finding who you are in personal transformation is a bad thing. However, when it starts to manipulate youth's faith to fit in the reality of youth culture, rather than finding the truth of the holy, it starts to become a problem. Adolescents who experience a juvenile faith often seek relationship that will reinforce their faith and look for comfortable relationships rather than relationships that help them seek truth. So what does this all mean? Simply, youth are not only isolated in society, but also isolated in our church. Throughout the 20th century, the isolation of youth continued to increase, and today, youth and adults live almost completely separate lives. This segregation is further seen in our church walls. This may seem rather disparaging. You may be asking, so how do we make our congregation a haven where no member is isolated? There isn't an easy answer. It is complicated, hard, and countercultural. But shouldn't our faith be just these things? As a start, the church needs to turn to the example of Jesus and strive for a mature faith. This includes a faith that accepts emotional comfort as well as suffering. All too often, we look for a faith that makes us feel good and dismiss any notion that faith includes suffering. The church is in need of having a mature, passionate faith demonstrated, and this is especially critical for our youth. For our youth are hungry. They are aching for something to be passionate for. The juvenilization of Christianity has taken away the risk that comes from following Jesus. Author Kenda Dean questions that since there is nothing left to die for in Christianity, is there anything worth living for? It is unmistakable that adolescents are passionate. It usually manifests itself in romantic relationships, where youth lose themselves in others. These relationships are filled with passion and commitment, but not intimacy. To have a wholesome love, we need commitment, passion, and intimacy. We ultimately learn intimacy from the love of God. However, this intimacy is first shown from adults in our lives. Youth programs have tried to fill this void for intimacy. They harness passion and commitment, but they leave out this intimacy. For youth to truly find an authentic passion, they need to be transformed and rooted in the love of Jesus, truly experiencing the intimacy of God through sacrificial love. The problem is there's no one demonstrating or teaching youth this sacrificial love, so they find a glimpse of love in unhealthy ways, through physical relationships, drugs, and attention through social media. The greatest gift we can give youth is to get to know them on an intimate level, to truly see them for their strengths and flaws, to be willing to hold up a mirror to them so they can see themselves for who they really are. This kind of intimate knowing of someone comes from a commitment to be with a youth for their whole life, not just a week, month, or year, but for the whole upbringing of the youth. Not on a superficial level, but on a deeper Christ-loving level. The true commitment that it takes doesn't allow for one person to do this for multiple young people. Rather, it should be the other way around. There needs to be multiple adults per youth. For this truly to be successful, this means that the way we do ministry with youth needs to look drastically different. I know all these trends in the wider church may seem overwhelming, but there's good news. The youth of Peace feel at home in this community. In conversations with the youth this fall, there were some common threads to the answer to the question I asked, what do you like about peace? The first common answer was that many youth have been going to this church their whole life. This signals that they feel comfortable in the church, but it also demonstrates how they may not have had exposure to other beliefs. Second, to the youth, the church feels like a welcoming community where people can discover their faith. One youth stated, "It's a supportive place that teaches people about God no matter who they are." This answer demonstrates how they value the community of the church, and it feels like a safe place to discover their faith. Third, the youth liked that it was an inclusive place and that everyone is welcome no matter whom they are. And last, they liked the church because of the people, and it was a place where their friends were. These answers are promising, but can the church do more? In the past, the church has left the responsibility of youth work to one staff member. I argue that instead, it should be the responsibility of the whole congregation. Adults, this question's for you. Do you know 5 youth or children by name? Do you know their hopes and passions? For culture of the church to change, I challenge each member of the congregation to make an effort to get to know 5 children and youth beyond a superficial level. For example, you should ask more than, how are classes going? You should be able to ask, how did you do on your math test last week? If as a congregation we take our responsibility of nurturing and caring for each of our youth, we will truly be living out and sharing the radical love that God has shown us. The demands on Paul and Beth are great, and they don't have time to develop and nurture each of our youth to the level needed. As the congregation moves into annual meeting, I challenge the church to think about where God is calling us in our ministry. Are we capable of creating a church culture that supports ministry to one another? Or are we going to go on relying on 2 overworked people? Are we creating positions that further isolate our age groups or promoting an intergenerational church? What steps does the church need to take to change its culture so that it's a place where parents could leave their kid for a whole day before they worry about their child? A place where children may want to stay and engage with church leaders about their faith? Can peace be a sanctuary from society where isolation of any member is unheard of and where each person that walks through the doors is immediately known, just as God immediately knows us? As we move into annual meeting, may we be open to where the Spirit is moving us. Amen.
Stay here for a second. I just wanted to take a moment and really thank Sarah. This has been a really wonderful fall for me to be able to rely on her as a colleague. And I thank you all for trusting council to be able to say, we're going to pay her for her abilities and actually work together, not just volunteer. So while I wish you blessings, I really wanted to hold you here desperately.
It would have been amazing to work with you.
And they might have too, but make sure that you check in with Sarah before you leave today too, because she's an amazing woman and we will miss her desperately. Thank you.
Spirit, and go and create this community as God would want. May it be so.
Will you please rise as you are able to join in our prayer of self-dedication, because this is our church.
We make it what it is.
Others will feel welcomed.
If I am welcome.
It will do a great work.
If I work.
It will make generous gifts to many causes.
If I am a generous giver of my time, talents, and treasure.
It will be a sanctuary for social justice and peace. Come on, you got it memorized.
If I advocate for
marginalized communities and practice peace in every setting of my life. It will be a church that embraces all, builds community, grows faith, and transforms lives.
If I who make it what it is, practice these things.
Therefore, with the grace of God, we shall be a safe and inclusive church living God's radical message. And I shall dedicate myself to being all the things I want my church to be. Amen.
Oh Lord my God, in you I put my trust. Oh Lord my God, in you I put my hope. Oh Lord my God, in you I put my trust. Oh Lord my God, in you I put my hope. In you I find my peace. In you I find my strength. In you I live and move and breathe. Let everything I say and do be founded by my faith in you. Holy hands and sing, let the praises ring.